All right. If you want to crush your Q4 or 2025 sales, well, this is for you. We just did a 50-minute live stream breaking down 5 advanced sales strategies for Etsy sellers. And what we're going to do here is we're going to recap it and give you the main takeaways. Well, I'm not going to do it. Chris Schaefer's going to do it. Chris, what are those 5 advanced strategies? Can you go ahead and cover those for us now?
Yeah, so if you are looking for a little bit of a leg up and you want to do some more advanced things, not just the sit back and wait, the field of dreams approach, as we get into 2025, there's a few things that you and I put together, Scott, 5 specifically, that we think will help give you that leg up if you're looking for something a little bit more advanced than the post and ghost or list and sit approach that most Etsy sellers use. The first thing, and this is why most people go with that post and ghost strategy, is they're waiting to get data back. They're waiting for the algorithm to figure out where they are. We're not huge fans of that. There's an easy way around this. Since Etsy's algorithm relies very heavily on traffic and sales, we can drive some traffic and sales. And what we like to use is what we call our aggressive launch strategy. This is typically going to take 2 to 3 weeks. We found that the 21-day one or the 3-week one performs a little bit better. And essentially what we're doing is we are creating our listing, pricing it where we want to sell. At that point, we take a look at what our break-even cost is and create a promotion, not discounting the sale price or not discounting the price, but creating a percentage discount promotion in the back end of Etsy for those new listings that we are trying to quickly launch and bring it down as close as we feel comfortable to that break-even price. Why do I say break-even? Why have you heard me say that again and again? Nobody wants to lose their shirt, right? And if we can sell it at break-even, it means we're at least not losing money on it. So if you want to get a little more aggressive, I guess you can, but the goal of this at the end of the day is to make money. And so if we're getting some of those sales in at that discount, we don't want to just be shoveling money out the door. If we figure out that break-even price using something like the Everbee Profit Calculator, then we can say, okay, I can afford to do a 40% discount or a 50% discount on this product and move a few units out the door, start to get people buying, right? And we're going to let that original discount as much as we can afford to or want to discount that product for the first 7 days. The next 7-day period, we're going to scale that back a little bit. So if we start at 40, maybe we bring it to 25 or 30% for that second 7-day window. And the third 7-day window, we're going to bring that back to 10, 15, 20%, right? Again, just dropping it down. If you can keep it around that 25% mark as that low end discount. So maybe we start at 40, then we pull it back to 30, then we pull it back into that 20 or 25 range. What Etsy has said is their internal data shows that you will get more conversions on a 25% discount than you will on a lower discount. Since the goal of this entire endeavor is to get as many sales as possible as quickly as possible. If we can stick to that range, it's helpful. If you can't because your margins aren't there, then that's okay. Just know that you're leaving a few conversions on the table if you're not sticking to that particular mark. The other portion of this, Scott, and there's actually 2 more, but the biggest portion is knowing how to drive traffic to this. So it's all fine and dandy that we run this discount. It's going to get more people clicking on it, but to get people to click on it, we have to be shown to begin with. So this strategy is extremely useful if you are partnering this with Etsy Ads. And I'm not going to get into all of the ins and outs of Etsy Ads because we'd be here for the next 3.5 hours or however long. Scott and I have talked about that in the past. I'm sure it's been hours upon hours, and you can find all of the different things that we've talked about in terms of how to make that work. But what you need to know is if you can afford to put on even $3 to $5 a day here, that's more than enough in almost every product to get those initial impressions. And if we can get those initial impressions from the ads, partner that with the new listing boost that Etsy gives us on the organic side to try to figure out where we should rank, we know we're going to turn those eyeballs into clicks. And that's the first thing that Etsy wants to see. We're going to get more clicks than our competition as long as we created our listing correctly, because we're going to stand out even more than they are in the search results. Etsy, when we're running those promotions, will give us some of the additional things like the 25% off or 30% off. Maybe they'll give us the countdown timer, depending on where we are in the sale. That leads to more clicks on your listings. The lower price, the discount, and the urgency, along with your well-created listing, will lead to those sales. And what does this really do for us? Well, one, it gets us some early sales, and in a way that becomes more and more profitable over time. 2, it helps get us data back fast. If we just post a listing and let the organic algorithm take its time and show us slowly and do all of these kinds of things, we will eventually settle out wherever our listing is destined to be inside of the search algorithm. The downside to that is that can take 3, 4, 5, in some cases, 6 months or more. Obviously, nobody wants to wait that long to figure out if a new listing was worthwhile or not. We can shortcut that process to a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks until we really understand where we will end up in the organic search algorithm. The other thing that this does for us is it allows us to quickly understand what our barrier to conversion is. So even if we're getting those clicks from the Etsy ads, from where Etsy decides to show us on organic, and maybe from our email list if we have one, and we'll talk more about that here in just a minute, that doesn't necessarily mean that those are going to turn into sales. And we've talked in the past about some of the different barriers to conversion. Maybe your listing photos aren't quite right. Maybe the title doesn't match what the customer is looking for exactly, but you're getting that traffic. Instead of having to wait a few months to understand, hey, when somebody comes to the listing, here's what potentially the problem is, we can find that out immediately. Because we've already eliminated price as a potential thing. We've eliminated a lot of the potential issues in terms of getting enough traffic in a short enough period of time. So now the question becomes, if I'm getting some traffic, what do I need to do in order to get them to buy? And why aren't they purchasing anything? And if we can figure this out early, that means we can solve the problem faster for the long term, which ultimately leads to more sales. It is a little bit more advanced because most Etsy sellers will come in and just say, I'm going to put my product up. Maybe I'll run a discount on it at some point, but I'm not going to worry about Etsy ads. I'm not going to worry about looking at the data that I get back to try to optimize it for the algorithm. But it is something that once you've done once or twice, you'll notice not only do you get more sales faster, but you will rank higher much more quickly and for a longer period of time because you're giving Etsy the exact information that they're looking for. Essentially, as soon as that listing hits the Etsy search algorithm, you're starting to drive traffic and sales and correcting any of the potential problems that you might have, which is something Etsy and Etsy customers ultimately love. Advanced strategy number 2, Scott, having multiple related products. And you and I have talked about this in a few different ways. The easiest way that I like to think about this is multiple things that someone can buy for the same person. The easiest way to do this is to have a niche-based shop. And this is something we talk about all the time. Rather than the putting up 5,000 different kinds of mugs for selling all of the products in the shop to avocado enthusiasts, it naturally leads to them looking at multiple things in the shop or having the ability to purchase multiple things. If your dad is really into fishing and you're on Etsy searching for the perfect Christmas gift for your dad, the chance of you finding 2 or 3 things in a shop that's all about fishing that your dad would really be interested in is extremely high. So not only does this lead to larger order sizes because people will find 2 or 3 things that go together. And if we combine that with Etsy's ability to create a discount for 2 or more, 3 or more type of items, we can force that a little bit as long as we have those multiple related products. The other benefit to this is we get more orders from repeat customers. And we know based on looking at Etsy's own data that they publish through the seller handbook and the Etsy buyer survey that Etsy buyers do like starting at the shop level once they've purchased from a shop. So if they don't know who to buy from for their dad's fishing gifts, they might go to Etsy search. But once they've found a good source of that, they like to start at the shop level rather than at the search level. So if we can take advantage of that by having as many related products as possible, and again, the niche-based approach leads to this automatically. If we can do that, then the next time something comes around, I don't know, your dad's birthday, Father's Day, whatever the next thing is that's coming around, you say, hey, I bought him that really cool Christmas gift from Scott's Bass Fishing Emporium. Let me go back over there on Etsy, see what they have that's new. And if they have something that I like, then I'll purchase it. That means we can create more products and have less competition, even for something that's a very highly competitive product on the search side of things, because people are going to ignore the search algorithm and start at the shop level. If you are using the throw spaghetti at the wall approach, the field of dreams, post as many different types of things as possible, and you're ignoring the niche related side of this, you are missing out on larger order sizes, which means more profit and a massive increased potential in those repeat sales from repeat customers. It is a little bit more advanced because a lot of the strategies that we hear for new Etsy sellers is just post 1,000 mugs this week and see what happens, right? That's not the strategy Etsy has asked people to use moving forward. That's not the strategy shoppers are looking for. And quite frankly, it's extremely detrimental to your bottom line because you're constantly chasing that next product that you're going to launch, and you're only ever going to be competing for new buyers. You lose out on the larger order sizes and the repeat buyers. Advanced strategy number 3 is building an email list. And if you guys have been hanging around with us for any length of time, you've probably heard Scott or myself talking about this. But having an email list is the foundation for any e-commerce business. And yes, you can say, oh, okay, maybe I want to add text messages to that, or I want to add a Facebook group, or I want to add. That's okay too. But if we start with the email list, that's going to get us a massive return on investment for very low investment. Additionally, we're able to do a few key things inside of the Etsy ecosystem. The first one is going to be drive traffic at will, right? If we have an email list, we have an external list of those customers, we're able to drive them back into the Etsy ecosystem whenever we want and need. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But the other one is it lets us run ideas by customers, and it lets us give them exclusive discounts, and it allows us to use them to grow that list even larger. And if you've heard us talk about building email lists in the past, the biggest way that we like to recommend people do this, there's a lot of different ways that you can, but the best way we have found for people who are not experienced email list builders is by using what we refer to as the fishbowl method. You also may hear this referenced as the giveaway method. If you're not familiar, if you've ever walked into a dentist's office or a restaurant, a lot of times they'll have a fishbowl or a plastic container up front where people can go, drop in their business card, and they'll win a free meal or a free teeth whitening or something like that, right? We're essentially doing the same thing, just online. If you want to learn how to do all of the ins and outs in this, just comment email below and we'll drop you the link for you to be able to get that guide. Dirty little secret, that's exactly what we just did, right? All we're doing is allowing you to get onto our email list by giving you the opportunity to get something of value. In the case of an e-commerce brand, it's easier to use the fishbowl method because we can just take our own products, and that's going to be the thing that is enough value for a customer or a potential customer to turn over their email in exchange for the ability to win that. Tip number 4, advanced seller strategy number 4 is using that email list that we've just built to partner with the aggressive launch strategy that we just talked about. And I mentioned when we were talking about that the goal of the aggressive launch strategy is to get as much traffic as quickly as possible so that we can get as many sales as quickly as possible so that we can get data back fast. You may remember a minute ago when I was talking about the power of the email list that I said, this is the traffic that's the most likely traffic to buy. If we're not taking advantage of that email list when we're running an aggressive product launch, we're missing out on a huge boost to our bottom line and to the traffic coming into the listing. We're also missing out on not just the sales on that product, but again, if we're using the niche-based approach, like we talked about in advanced strategy number 2, and we have multiple related products, we're missing out on people who say, I don't really like that one, but let me go check out what else is new, or the add-on products that we would have in the larger order size. The best way that we have found to do an email product launch and partner it with that aggressive launch strategy is by using a 5-day campaign. And I know I said 5 days, that sounds like a lot, but it goes by in the blink of an eye. So when we're running that first discount is the best place to do this. We can start sending an email. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, just so you know, I created this cool new thing. It's available right now. You can save 30%, 40%, whatever that discount is that we picked on the aggressive launch side. Go check it out. That discount's going away on Saturday, right? Day number 2, we just send a little bit of a reminder. Day number 3, same thing. Day number 4, hey, this is going away tomorrow. That discount I've been talking about, that's going to go away tomorrow, just so you know. Day 5, this is where we get a little bit of pushback from people. We like to send 2, 3, or maybe if we're getting really fancy with it, 4 emails. But in most cases, we're going to send 3. And I know there's people screaming in the comments right now, that's a lot of emails. And the answer is yes. But we also have to remember that people are busy. They're doing a lot of different things. And so if you're getting a 25, 30, or even a 40% open rate on your emails, which would be killer, there's a good chance that if you're sending those 3 emails on the last day, that all 3 of those emails, even if you're getting that 30% open rate, are opened by completely different people. And what we've seen time and time again in the 10 plus years that we've been using this strategy is if we don't get a little bit more aggressive on that last day, we leave a lot of sales on the table. So the last day works kind of like that whole campaign consolidated into just one day. So in the morning of the last day, we're going to say, hey, this is going away tonight. Just wanted to remind you. In the afternoon, we're going to say, hey, this is going away tonight. Just wanted to remind you. In the evening, this is going away in just a few hours. Just wanted to remind you. And by the way, I know I'm emailing more than normal. This is the last one for now. That's it. And what we're able to do by sending that 5-day campaign is not only get 2 nice increases in sales, and we'll typically see the biggest spikes when that first email goes out and when that last email goes out, but we're also sending traffic and sales on a daily basis. Now, days 2, 3, and 4 are not going to be as hot of a sales day as days 1 and 5, but that's okay because we're still going to see every time we send that email to our list, a nice little spike in visits and a nice little spike in sales. And what we are looking for is that consistency. Etsy's algorithm loves to see a little bit of consistency almost as much as they love to see that sales and traffic data coming in. We're able to give the algorithm exactly what it wants. And because they're on our email list and they're getting a little bit of a discount, they're much more likely to purchase than any other kind of traffic. So we can shortcut the entire algorithm by combining that email product launch strategy with the aggressive launch strategy that we talked about as the advanced seller strategy number 1. Scott, number 5 is using something similar to that product launch, but we call this our profit push campaign. Essentially what we're doing here is anytime we want to promote a bunch of different things, or we just want a little spike in sales, we don't have to wait for a new product to launch. We don't have to wait to partner with that crazy discount that we're doing for the first 7, 14, or 21 days. We can send what we call the 5-day profit push to those listings or to the entire store. And one of the best ways we've found to take advantage of this, whether you're doing this as the profit push strategy or as the product launch strategy, is to partner with Etsy's Share and Save program. You save an additional percentage. You get some of those listing fees back, which can make a huge difference, especially when you're driving your own traffic. Save a couple $100 extra and go from there. So I think number 5 here, Scott, the biggest difference is going to be just when we use this. The campaign structure is going to look almost identical, but it's something that we can use all year long. Obviously, we're not going to say, hey, it's all new products because we're not doing a product launch. But we might do something like, hey, our Black Friday sale is going live. Go check this out. And we can use that same 5-day strategy, the same profit push campaign to drive them over for that. Or our new Halloween designs are out, right? Or check out our Christmas collection. And we can do that at any point as long as we have that list. If you're looking to get a little bit more advanced in 2025, Scott, the real trick comes down to a few different things. One, we have to understand what drives the Etsy SEO algorithm. The biggest factor here is traffic and sales. So no matter what you're doing, you should be doing something to spike both of those. The 5 strategies that we just covered do a great job of doing that. 2, if you have some resources that you haven't already taken advantage of, you need to be leveraging those as a brand. We can't be reliant on Etsy's SEO algorithm. We have to look at things like running Etsy ads. We have to look at things like doing a little bit of marketing outside of the Etsy ecosystem, like something like an email list, right? And the third thing that I would say, if you're looking for a more advanced strategy, is understanding how all of these things play together. You may remember when I was talking about thing number 1 here, that aggressive launch strategy, that the real reason that we're doing that, yes, we're getting some sales out of it, is to get the data back. And I know a lot of Etsy sellers like to be more on the creative side, on the design side. But if we can spend just a little bit of time each week looking at the numbers, which Etsy is doing a better and better job of showing us in a way that makes sense to most people, then we can say, okay, if I make this one small change, I'm going to sell more. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about.